We don't need to inflate Lois's ego any further than it already is. We will be in touch.
I mean, we all knew that Christina had rights as the baby's biological mother.
Molly and TJ's lives would have quickly devolved into a custody battle.
My baby is dead and my sister is blaming me. I will never forgive her.
I will never forgive Christina.
You need to pull out that win. Come back to it. Rocco and Charlotte for me.
Do I miss Lucky?
The baby drama. How long are they going to stretch this out? Every time a character returns, they're practically in chains. Can't they come up with something new? And the Jagger/Sunny storyline, it's getting really old. I've been watching GH for years, but the constant changes and prolonged storylines are wearing thin. Christina's storyline is particularly frustrating. She offered to be a surrogate, but now seems to be in denial about her commitment. Sorry, Christina, but you're in the wrong here. Your sister and TJ had expectations, and by wavering now, you're taking away their hope of becoming parents. As much as it pains me to see baby drama on GH, Christina's behavior at the funeral made the decision clear. It would have been a long, drawn-out custody battle that no one wanted to see. On a more positive note, I'd love to see Morgan Fairchild join GH full-time. She started her career on Search for Tomorrow as Jennifer Pace, went on to Dallas as Jenna Wade, and starred in Flamingo Road and other primetime soaps. She was also the star of The City and played Angelica Deveroux on Days of Our Lives. It would be fantastic if they gave her a compelling storyline on GH. Now, let's talk about Lucky. It looks like he's been held captive and might have to sacrifice part of his liver to save Lulu when he escapes or is rescued. It would be amazing if Luke returned with Lucky, but I know that's probably a long shot. Whenever Lulu wakes up, Dante will have a tough decision to make, much like Patrick had to choose between Robin and Sabrina. I love Dante and Sam, but Dante and Lulu have such a strong connection. It was great to see Dante confiding in Chase, and I hope we see more of that. I'm rooting for Dante and Lulu to end up together, especially if she remembers she was about to tell him she loves him before collapsing. I'd also want to say to Lois, be proud of who you are and where you come from. I'm a proud Alabamian with a southern drawl, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Lois should embrace her New York accent. It's part of who she is. Without it, she just wouldn't be Lois. Lastly, Alexis should have made it clear to Molly and TJ that she wouldn't be helping them with the surrogacy plan. When Christina decided to keep the baby, Alexis should have been upfront about it and made it clear that Molly and TJ would not be part of that decision. And let's not forget Ginny Francis. There are few actors who can convey emotion like she does. Laura's situation is tough, and while some think she should let her go, they don't know Laura like her loved ones do. Laura is a fighter, and she's trying to come back. We need to give her every chance to do that. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Messy Syrup. It's me, Abby, here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching, so let's dive into today's video. I had a strong gut feeling from the preview that the person under the hood was Lucky. I was a bit doubtful, since I thought Lucky's return would be scheduled for next month, but when the hood came off, I couldn't help but scream yes over and over again. I've been eagerly awaiting Jonathan Jackson's return, and now I'm thrilled to see what's next for Lucky. But seriously, why is it that every time a character returns to Port Charles, they're always being held captive? Can't the writers come up with a new storyline to explain their absence? I'm starting to think that after the strike ended, the GH and B&B and Y and R writers should have considered other careers and kept the fill-in writers. I love seeing these characters return, but do they all have to be involved in some abduction scenario? Let's think about it. Eva helped rescue Jason a few years ago, Drew escaped from captivity, and even Lulu was held by Liesel in a lab years ago. The last time Lucky came back, he was held by, well, you fill in the blank. Valentin returned after being abducted by his uncle Victor, and young Jake was held by Helena until rescued. The only bright spot on GH right now is Lucky Spencer's return. Thank you, Frank Valentini, for making it happen. Now, let's bring back Frisco Jones, Jack Wagner, with his iconic blue boxer shorts and his classic songs like All I Need and Lady of My Heart. Frisco's return would definitely shake things up and bring some fresh energy to the show. Also, Lulu's been in a coma for years now, and that respirator should have been replaced within 2 weeks. It can't stay in her mouth indefinitely due to the risk of infections and damage to her throat. I know it's a soap opera, but they need to either fix this or make it more realistic. Writers, seriously, we deserve more original storylines, rather than the same ones recycled over and over again. Let's talk about the Chrissy or Molly conflict juxtaposed with Maxie/Lulu. Maxie and Lulu went through a similar experience, and years later, Maxie is still by Lulu's side. They forgave each other, rebuilt their friendship, and Maxie continues to visit Lulu in hospice. This is a hopeful sign for the Davis girls, though Molly is in the wrong here. Like Lulu, Molly needs to apologize and make things right for claiming another woman's baby. She said some cruel things to Chrissy during Chrissy's darkest hour, and she may regret her words once she realizes the impact on her family. I'm loving Loisa's energy on GH and how she interacts with Sunny. She tries to keep respect in her voice while watching out for her daughter's interests. Sunny has a chance to go legit, and I hope he takes it. This might mean significant changes for his role on GH. Also, why does every returning character have to be chained and hooded? It's becoming a bit of a cliché. Bringing back so many characters is making me wonder about GH's future. The show has too many weird scripts, frequent writer changes, and outlandish storylines that are hard to keep up with. It's sad to see Alexis potentially struggling with her sobriety due to this mess. I wish she had destroyed those papers. Christina is blinded by her grief and selfishness, which is really unfortunate. After yesterday's episode, it seems pretty clear that Dante might end up dumping Sam for Lulu in the next few weeks. Dante mentioned that he and Sam have a boring, safe life and that they aren't in love with each other. Meanwhile, it looks like Lucky and Elizabeth might rekindle their romance just in time for the fall season. Molly and Christina should have listened to Alexis's suggestion to handle the surrogacy legally. Molly, as an attorney, should have known better than to trust her selfish sister. Had Christina listened to her father, she might still be pregnant. I was expecting Maxie to wake up while she was visiting Lulu, but it didn't happen. It was surprising to see how different Haven was towards Lois compared to Sasha. I suspect the employee who made the comment about Lois' accent was the same one who made the call. I'm excited to see where Lucky's story goes. Last we heard, he was in Ireland. Who kidnapped him? And when did the boys last speak to him? Most importantly, why? I think the writers should turn Lois' accent situation into a My Fair Lady storyline. Imagine a hot Professor Higgins as a new love interest for Lois. That would be fantastic. So, Lucky is being held captive, seriously. It feels unnecessary since he wasn't even presumed dead. I was excited about his return, but given how the show has been these past 6 months, I'm bracing for disappointment. Honestly, I'm almost relieved because I don't want to deal with this train wreck of a baby storyline any longer. I'd much rather focus on the odd plot where people are hating on Lois' accent than continue with the baby drama. Just end it already, disown each other if you have to. It's ridiculous that Molly is acting like Christina has no right to grieve. I'm still standing by my belief that this whole mess is Ova's fault. The confrontation would have been simpler without the added drama of the bag. It's interesting they're bringing back characters from over a decade ago who I don't even recognize. My mom knows them and says Rick is just as problematic as Sunny, yet he was welcomed at the funeral. It feels like Molly is suggesting Christina shouldn't receive support. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like Mom, get away from her, or you have to choose between your grieving daughter and your daughter who's a murderer. Just end it already, and let's move on to Lucky's return. I'm eager to figure out his storyline. And speaking of storylines, Jordan seems to be gearing up for a legal battle. I'm curious about what charges she could bring against Alexis and Christina, but it sounds like this mess will drag on until the season finale in mid-September. Honestly, the current plots with Kate's and Ava are a little more bearable than this mess. It's making me wonder if Sunny might be leaving the show. I'm predicting that TJ will end up breaking up with Molly in the next few weeks. The writing seems to be pointing in that direction. I'm hoping Molly and Christina will reconcile by Thanksgiving, and that they'll all spend Christmas together with Sam, Jason, and Danny. Now, let's talk about Morgan Fairchild. While Haven helped Lois with her deception debut, it's hard to ignore the noticeable changes, her wig and the work done on her face, which affects how her lips move. I'm skeptical about being sold on their products given these issues. And here's hoping Lucky's new plotline is better than the ridiculous Christina falling out the window scenario. It needs to be better written than the whole Kate's is in Port Charles to yell about Sunny plot, and more satisfying than the Who Killed Austin and the Notes to Ava storyline. GH really needs new writers and a new executive producer who won't sign off on this garbage. While I adore Rena Sofer and hope she stays around for a long time, a plot about her Brooklyn accent in 2024 feels outdated. We need fresh, modern storytelling. Oh please, Jordan, seriously? Nothing in that paper mentioned taking your grandchild, a role you haven't been passionate about before now. Molly has gone off twice, but where is she taking responsibility for any of this? Where's all her law school experience and A-Day knowledge that could have prevented this custody mess before Christina even got pregnant? It's frustrating to see how disjointed some of these storylines are. This surrogacy storyline is a prime example of why surrogates should have already given birth. Christina entered this with noble intentions, but had no idea how emotionally complex it would be to carry a baby. Using her egg only complicated things further, as her feelings evolved during the pregnancy. Yes, Christina's baby died, and Molly feels like she lost her baby too. But the reality is that this baby was biologically Christina's daughter. Molly treated Christina as if she was just an incubator without acknowledging her emotional investment. While this drama has been compelling, it's tearing their family apart. Both women need to grieve and recognize that they both lost a baby. Can we please move on? If the show featured Lucky today, I missed it. My concern is that Jonathan Jackson might only be on briefly, and they could potentially kill off Lucky. People hoped he'd come back for Lulu, but the storyline doesn't seem to align. Laura once again claimed she had no idea where he was, which makes me wonder if he's working undercover for someone. Maybe Valentin, though I'm not a fan of him. When TJ comforted Christina, it was the most genuine scene on GH in a long time. All this hurt, pain, and broken relationships stem from poor decisions. Christina shouldn't have gone to Ava's, Molly, and TJ should never have agreed to Christina being the surrogate. And Ava is at fault too. Everyone should have listened to Alexis from the beginning. It's all a series of what-ifs and should-haves, but none of that matters now. I'm anticipating a new conflict brewing. The Ashfords versus Alexis and Christina. Let's talk about the baby situation. Remember, the baby was TJ and Molly's. It was their desire to have a child in TJ's sperm that made this whole situation a reality. Christina's involvement was supposed to be a temporary arrangement, not an end goal. If Christina wasn't going to be the biological mother, someone else would have stepped in. But Molly was always meant to be this child's mother. I stand by that firmly. Here's a prediction. Molly might end up pregnant by some miracle and then seek to reconcile with Christina. However, Christina could become jealous and resentful, which would add even more tension to the mix. I'm really curious to see what the new writers have in store. The current state of the show is almost unwatchable for me. The baby storyline, the Jagger or Ava or Sunny drama. It's all becoming too much. And don't even get me started on the Willow/Drew situation. It's just gross and unprofessional. Yes, Christina agreed to be the surrogate. But let's not forget how TJ and Molly have treated her poorly throughout the pregnancy. Alexis advised them to sign legal papers from the start, but they didn't follow through. Alexis knew this could end badly, and it's been a tough spot for her to be in, trying to mediate between her daughters. I really feel for her. Molly and TJ's selfishness from the beginning has been glaring. They didn't attend appointments with Christina, and it's clear Christina has every right to be upset after carrying the baby for 8 months. Molly's complaints about Christina and TJ's arguments only fueled Christina's concerns. Christina intended for Molly to have the baby in the end, not TJ, but Molly, in her distress, made things worse by assuming the worst and not communicating properly. Ava's involvement in this mess, especially her lies to the authorities, is also problematic. And honestly, I'm ready for Agent Cates to leave the show. On a brighter note, welcome back, Lucky. I'm excited to see where his storyline goes. Christina was making a huge sacrifice by putting her life on hold to carry a child for Molly and TJ. She experienced permanent changes to her body, like the loss of bladder control, and she was also in a new relationship with Blaze, which had its own impact. Instead of showing gratitude, Molly and TJ treated Christina poorly. They criticized her for every move she made, demanded she end relationships with her father, and even scolded her for situations she couldn't control, like walking into violence at a wedding. Throughout the pregnancy, Christina was essentially treated like a servant rather than someone making a tremendous personal sacrifice. Molly and TJ never once showed genuine support or appreciation for what Christina was going through. They criticized her for experiencing hormonal changes and developing a bond with the baby she was carrying. By the end, Molly was verbally abusive, demanding Christina sign papers on the spot, without any real discussion or empathy. Christina had every right to prioritize the baby's well-being over her relationship with Molly. No verbal agreement would make me hand over my newborn to people I believe to be abusive. Molly and TJ's behavior was controlling and cold, and Christina was right to be concerned about the environment in which her child would be raised. Molly's attempt to tell Christina how she should grieve the loss of the baby she carried is also incredibly insensitive. Baby Iron was always going to be a part of Christina's life, and Molly never had a moment of motherhood with her. The situation around Christina going through the window was unforeseen and tragic. It's gross how much blame is being placed on her. We didn't expect Molly and TJ to be so ugly from the start. While I understand Molly's perspective, her behavior towards Christina has been harsh and lacking in empathy. Christina's maternal instincts were at play, and that's why she wanted to keep the baby. Molly was right that the baby's death was an accident, but Christina's presence at the wedding was a major contributing factor. Alexis also failed in her role. When Christina first mentioned wanting to sue for custody, Alexis should have guided her properly instead of enabling her. You can't just hand someone a loaded gun and then hide your hands when they use it. Legalities aside, we need to consider good faith, morality, and family loyalty. Christina broke her promise to Molly and took back a precious gift. Sneaking around and drawing up papers without honesty or communication was cruel. It's clear that there's a lot of fault on all sides, but Christina's actions have shown a level of selfishness and disloyalty that can't be ignored. Imagine being in Molly's shoes. You and your partner are struggling with infertility, and after a failed surrogacy attempt, you finally agree to let your sister, who had been advocating strongly to be your surrogate, carry your child. This is a huge decision, filled with hope and trust. But then, your sister betrays that trust by plotting to keep the child for herself, effectively cutting you and your partner out of the baby's life. The betrayal doesn't stop there. It results in a tragic loss of the child just weeks before birth, due to a confrontation Christina had, which could have been avoided. From Molly's viewpoint, this betrayal and the loss of the child she was expecting to raise is devastating. It's a situation that would make anyone feel incredibly hurt and betrayed. It's not just about the legalities or the emotions. It's about a deep sense of being wronged by someone you trusted with such an important part of your life. Molly's feelings of anger and betrayal are completely understandable in this context. If you were in her position, navigating through infertility, placing your trust in a loved one, and then facing such a heart-wrenching outcome, you'd likely have strong emotions and frustrations as well. This storyline is a reminder of how complicated and emotional surrogacy can be, and how trust and communication are crucial in such delicate situations. It's a tragic situation with valid feelings on all sides, and it's important to acknowledge and understand the pain and betrayal felt by each character. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates. Your opinions matter, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.